All right, here we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Washed Up. Coach Rose, I don't even know if we told you the name of the show, but it's called Washed Up. You're talking to two washed up players.
Well, you invited a washed up coach, so that's
no. That's not the point. But yeah, we're super excited to have Coach Rose here. Obviously, the legendary BYU coach that TJ and I both played for. Three-time Mountain West Coach of the Year. And you were one time, were you guys in the SWAC at that time? Or what was the conference you were in when you won Coach of the Year the other time?
We were in the Mountain West, and then we were in the what do we call that thing? The West Coast Conference. I think those were the.
Okay.
I was actually at BYU. I actually coached in 4 leagues because when I got there as an assistant, we were in the WAC for a year or two, and then we went. I don't know, to the Mountain West, and then we went to the WCC, and now we're in the Big 12. So it's pretty quick, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, Coach. Obviously the winningest coach at BYU, and dating all the way back to when you were assistant. You were there how many years? I mean, you've seen that program from every angle and longer than anybody else has, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So we're honored to have you here.
It was 8 years with Cleve and then 14 years as the head coach. So
it's awesome.
But I also coached at Millard, so I might think that's like 25 years when it's only 22 years.
That's true. Well, we're grateful that you're here. I didn't have this in mind, but you talk about jumping to different conferences during your time as a coach, and just kind of puts my mind to what conferences are like nowadays, right? Like whatever conference it is, like all this realignment is funky, and college sports is in a weird place. Like, do you think the dust ever settles? Like, are there just going to be super leagues? Like, what? I don't know. What does it look like in 5 or 10 years? Is it the same as now with just small nuances, or have you given that much thought? Like, how different is college sports now versus when you were in it not that long ago, and how different will it be not that long from now?
Yeah, I believe that it'll continue to evolve, and the more money that's involved, the money can kind of change everything. You even look in professional sports, the players don't want to play 82 NBA games, but they
right.
because I made money, and NFL teams don't want to play 17, scheduled football games. But I mean, money it drives this whole thing, and it's obviously filtered down to the NCAA level, and money should have been in the NCAA level for the players years and years ago. And there were discussions about that in our head coaches meetings at the Final Four for years before I actually retired. And I think that probably the biggest mistake made by the Coaches Association and the NCAA is that we let somebody else control how that all happened instead of us getting in front of it as coaches and universities and being able to control it, because it's pretty. I mean, you're talking about we're all still playing in the NCAA, but we're all not playing under the same umbrella as how the money is distributed. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've told TJ this, and maybe I've said this on the podcast before. I remember right when I got to BYU in 2013, I was having a conversation with Tyler, and I think he was taking like an economics class or something, and so it just kind of came up, like, and we were talking about this, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like, my class did this study and figured out that like each of us is worth like $250,000 to the university," and my mind was like blown. I was like, "Holy cow!" I was like 200. But it was such a distant thought, like, oh yeah, but I can't even go get breakfast for free. So like, of course I'm not going to make $250,000. And now these guys are making 10 times that, right? Like $250,000. That's a monthly payment for some of these guys.
And they're getting breakfast for free.
And they're getting breakfast for free. Right. Yeah. Everything is up. All the operations, everything.
You're like, I'm good with my $1,500 a month. Like, yeah, this is where it's at.
Exactly. I felt like the richest guy on campus.
We did. that's what's interesting is we did make some improvements, but they were just minuscule improvements. And so there was so much money being made by the NCAA, and they were just banking that money, and it basically caught up to them. And now I don't know. I would say in some circles that, the NCAA is a little bit nervous about where this might go a few years from now too.
I would be too.
Do you feel like BYU had, especially for whatever reason, like an even stronger microscope over everything we did? Because it feels like, obviously there's the Nick situation. That one was out front and center of the whole world, and that's like case in point, or Yoli's as well. Like it just kind of felt like these are two cases that if you dug, at all deep into these situations, you would have understood where these guys are coming from, and that, Nick was in a tough position, and it really, what he did wasn't like financially enormous, right? Like it was tiny, and Yoli tried to do it the right way, and both just got, absolutely decimated for these things. So did you feel like BYU was under this kind of unfair microscope?
Well, it's hard for me to really, just to kind of make sense of how it all happened, as far as BYU situation, because, we all know of the programs who've been paying their players for years,
right.
And so some of these players some of these programs on NIL, their players have actually had to take cuts, because it's actually recorded somewhere. And the places that were really making this work is when there was no record of any of it, and it was just happening. I think that if you look into a lot of the coaches and their success over the years in the NCAA, and then that maybe their success isn't quite as good now that everyone gets to pay their players, because you can be a lot better coach if you have better players. I don't know if everybody knows that, but
it helps.
The better players make a little bit better coach. And so I just believe that we're in the right direction as far as being able to compensate the players. But I think it's still out of control because of just how we got there. And I don't think that you can put I just don't think that you can go backwards, and so I don't know how they're going to, because as soon as they put some type of cap, and as soon as they try to monitor it at a level for everyone, they're going to get sued.
They're going to get sued. Yeah, it's coming.
And then they'll be, back to where we are right now. And, I do believe that, there's so many different ways to go. You look at Texas Tech, and they've hired a billionaire or they've allowed a billionaire to kind of run their athletic program now. And so I think that the athletic director probably consults this billionaire, but they're paying their women's softball players $1 million, and that's a big number for a sport that doesn't make a positive.
Yeah, right, for sure. Well, they're paying 28 to the football team, I think I read today, which is just like, it's insane.
Yeah, you better be good,
Right.
Yeah, right. That's right.
So, Coach, from your perspective, you've been retired from coaching for a few years now. Is there any part of you that is like, man, I wish I would have had this when I was coaching, or is it like, I'm so happy I didn't have that? Like, what are your likes and dislikes of NIL?
Well, I remember the second year into NIL, and I had a conversation with Coach Pope, and he told me his kind of vision for how this could work at BYU, and I was amazed at what he was trying to do at the time. And at the time, he was talking about $2 million for the team.
Wow.
And I think we've exceeded that at BYU.
With just a couple individual guys. Yeah.
I will tell you this, that somewhere in the record book, when this goes down as how did it happen, why did it happen, and how did BYU make such a big jump when it happened. I think a lot of the credit needs to go to Coach Pope, because he was ahead of his time, and he was a guy who just believed, that he could do things that had never been done before, and he could do them in a grand way. And I think that he got BYU people thinking in a way that has made him get ready for, Coach Young now, and the teams and the players that we have now.
For sure. And I think you could you can go back and say that about every coach. I mean, you paved the way for what Pope did as well. Like there's so many wonderful things and great things that you did at your time at BYU that just established BYU as a very, very good basketball program. And Coach Pope took it and ran and did a great job, and KY is doing a great job as well. And there's so much to attribute to the previous coaches, especially you, that really put BYU in a great spot.
Well, if you get on a run where the positive vibes are going for your school, when you're out, like at this time of year, when you're out all across the country milling around with all the other coaches everywhere, what and then people start to think, now that you win back-to-back years, and now you can schedule some real, amazing teams and different programs. And I think that this year's schedule, by far, will be the best basketball schedule that BYU has ever played, especially in the preseason. Then you add the conference, and it has to excite, the older BYU fans who kind of suffered through really good BYU teams playing in really average leagues and having to play really average preseason schedules. And the fact that BYU is playing the schedule like they are right now is something that I would have never seen, because we worked so hard. I mean, Coach Lacombe was tireless in his trying to make deals to get games with ACC teams and with SEC teams and with, Big 12 teams. And it just, now we get 18 Big 12 teams automatic, and we're playing the SEC and every other league. So I'm really, really happy for BYU basketball and BYU basketball fans, because they waited a long time for this.
Yeah, that's a great point. And shout out to Timmy Lacombe, of course. That's our guy right there. Kind of continuing on that note, a thought that TJ and I had that we wanted to ask you about is that, you come off a season with some momentum, yes, between coaches and scheduling maybe becomes a little bit easier, but talk about what this staff is feeling, because you've been in their place where, obviously everybody loves the offseason because you can do no wrong, right? You haven't played any games, you haven't lost any games. But coming off a season and playing in a Provo that has momentum and buzz around the program, right? You were there for, obviously, Jimmer. You were there for that Sweet 16 run. You were there when you guys were going to the tournament, year after year after year after year. You were winning conference championships. What is it like being in Provo when you have that crowd behind you and kind of feeding into that momentum and feeling that going into a season?
Well, it's pretty special, and the one thing, at least my experience at Provo, was that the off season most of the time created a real positive buzz for the BYU fan. I mean, they're pretty. They can turn the page pretty quick and anticipate what could happen the next year. And I always really appreciated that with BYU fans, because a lot of times they always thought we were going to be better than maybe we actually were, but they just love that. That's what they love to believe. And but this year I think they have reason to be extremely excited about what's going to happen. I think that they overachieved last year, in my opinion. You take a a team that was the first year coach and with the first year staff, and trying to, bring in a bunch of new players and mix them with some returning guys, and then you take some starters and put them on the bench, and then take young kids that have come in and start them. I mean, you got some serious dynamics to try to work through. KY had to work through. And this year, I really believe that there's a lot more stability to the roster and the offseason, even though there's a lot of new additions. I mean, you add the number one, high school recruit in the country, and that immediately brings ridiculous amount of excitement. But you look at, the returning guys, with Kata and with Richie and with Baker. I mean, you got a real solid returning core that you're going to really lean on in the first 6 or 7 games of the year and the first 6 or 7 games in conference, as these new guys figure out what it's really like to play at BYU in the league and to play at BYU in this serious preseason schedule that they actually have. And the guys who know how to do that, I think you'll see them be very, very good early. I hope they are anyways.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great answer. Kind of before TJ takes us home with the last question, going back to what I just asked, kind of following up, jumping back into that NIL stuff, how much money would Jimmer have made? Would Jimmer have made enough to stay one more year instead of jumping into the draft? Because I feel like he might have, honestly.
Well, Jimmer's biggest success, and when he really became famous was, about the end of December and early January of his senior year. Okay. And so I mean, and that's when it just took Jimmermania went across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, people were excited. People were excited about Jimmer returning. Nobody more than I was. I can remember the day that actually happened and came down, and he was coming to my office. It was a Saturday, and I was in there all by myself waiting for him to come, and he was a little bit late, and he was going to tell me if he was, going to stay in the draft or if he was going to come back for his senior year. And man, was I was really nervous, because I really thought we could be, a really good team with him. Plus, I really believed that he could improve his draft stock, because he had just gone through all of it, and he didn't really have a guaranteed first round team, but he would have got picked. He would have got picked for sure in the second round. But he decided that he was coming back for his senior year, and I really wonder, what kind of money he would have got at that point compared to what kind of money he would have got in February or March, when he was the consensus MVP. We flew around the country for 10 days getting MVP trophies. That he was it was unbelievable, and he was the Rupp Award winner, and he was the NABC Player of the Year, and there were some pretty good players that year too. I have a ball in my office that's signed at the Wooden Awards, that was signed by the big kid from Michigan State and the kid from Connecticut. And I mean, we're talking about some really good players that, that were kind of singled out that year. And Jimmer was for him too in his career to come back and, to go in to the NBA as the number 10 pick or 11 pick, whatever he was. And, he had a really, really nice NBA career. We all think he could have had a much better career for him if chips would have fallen a different way and things didn't happen. But there are so many guys that have that story. And I think I'll just remember the success that Jimmer had in the NBA instead of worried about what it could have been if something else would have happened, because it was pretty good.
We would have found a way after that year to get him a COVID year, like the very first COVID year, years before there were COVID years. We would have got him another one and keep him around.
Yeah, and you know what? I still I still don't really understand today. You know, when I left coaching, and you know, I had so many health issues the first couple 2 or 3 years, and I followed the games and I followed the teams and the leagues, but I didn't really follow you know, the personnel and the people. But it just seemed like players just kept on playing, you know, and I don't blame them. I mean, once we started paying the guys, they don't all think that they have to the comfortable, you know, position of where they are, and if you talk to you know 100 players who played in the NCAA, they'll all tell you how much they loved it playing there. And there'll be a few that maybe had a bad experience. Most of the guys will tell you they'd have stayed in college forever if they could have, you know, and made that kind of money. But they were also anxious. They're also anxious to move on because it's time to get paid, you know, and that's what we've taken out of college basketball that I think is really, really good for the game, because these players get in there and they still all want to, you know, be the next first round pick and the next lottery pick. But if it's not happening in the way they want it, they're not taking chances on it. They're coming back to school and being more prepared. The next year, the player has really improved to where not only as players but in life.
There's this guy Seth Towns. Maybe you guys heard his name. I know him through a friend. He played 8 years in college basketball. So he was at Harvard for 4. I think he had like 2 season-ending injuries, maybe 1 plus a red shirt. Then he was at Ohio State so that was 16 to 20. Then 20 to 22, he was at Ohio State where he earned a master's degree. And then he played another 2 years at Howard University where he earned a PhD. How about that? He got a PhD while he's playing college basketball.
That you have to be really impressed that he used the game
for sure
to get the education that he has now. And
it's true.
I think that's the way that it was, you know, drawn up years and years ago. We kind of got away from it, and I kind of think we're getting back to it. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
He's creeping up on our good friend Nate Austin. 8 years, it's just like it's getting there with Nate, you know.
That's right.
Nate's running on like 12 years now. I mean,
I know.
He can't get away.
It's incredible.
You couldn't have a better BYU guy at BYU than Nate Austin.
100%. 100%. He would take a charge from a train if it meant that BYU was getting a dub.
You're probably right. Well, Coach, you mentioned you know, BYU fans at the end of a season, they can kind of turn the page and get expectations and high hopes for the next year. How are you feeling about this next year's team? What are your expectations? What's kind of your hot take on this next season's team?
Well, I'm really excited, you know, for the preseason of this team, and usually with BYU, you kind of get through the preseason and then get the league and see, you know, how you fare against, you know, the top 3 or 4 teams in the league.
Right.
I'm really excited for, you know, the first game. I think they play in Vegas, and then I think we got a game in New York and then a game in Boston. I mean, we got a lot of good, you know, early games, and we'll find out exactly. I think the team's capable of beating any team in the league. I mean, in the country. I don't know.
Lost him.
Beat any given team, you know, of all the 5 whatever are out there. And this guard that's coming from Baylor, I was really impressed with him as a freshman, and he'll really help. And I mean, you take that position, a kid who really loves to distribute the ball and is very, very good defensively at that position. And what he he can do for the shooters on the team. We've probably got 5, 6, 7 as good as shooters, as maybe one of the top 2 or 3 shooters that we've had on every team that I ever coached. We've got a real handful of them, and so I'm excited to see how it goes. And then our inside, we've got size. It's always been hard to have a lot of it, and so I really believe that this team is put together to make a really deep run. I feel it's kind of, I hated when people would talk like that about my teams, because it makes you, feel a lot of pressure from the expectations. But I think these guys all know what they've created there, and anybody who is prepared to do it is KY. I think that BYU getting a guy who coached professionally for 18 or 19 years before he becomes a BYU coach is a real coup in itself. Just the fact that he knows how to turn the financial commitments and operation over to another guy, and then coach the players for their ability, not for their contracts. And a lot of coaches are just learning how to do that. I mean, he's done that his whole career, and so he that's not a learning curve for him. And I think you really saw it last year in some really tough decisions that he made. We didn't get off to the best start in the league, and then he made some personnel changes, and that only can happen from a guy who's got a lot of experience, a lot of guts, and making really, really hard decisions, that are the very best thing for the team. And so I think everybody should have a lot of confidence in KY and his ability to manage this group that he has coming in this year.
Yeah. Geez, that's
a great perspective.
What do you think, Tej? What do you think? You're a basketball savant compared to guys like me.
That's not true.
He's married to the game.
No, like I think you said it very well, and there's been so much that's been poured into this team. There's no hiding for us. There's no sneaking up on anybody. Like this team, we've spent a lot of money on this team. There's, there have been high expectations since the jump, and everybody wants to see this team do really well. And, I think this team and KY, it's like you said, he's as experienced as anybody in this to be able to manage, the financial stuff and manage, players and make sure you put a great product out on the floor. And I have high expectations for this team. I think we have the right pieces, and from what I hear, the team chemistry so far, I think we have every piece to make a really deep run in this tournament. And I think it's Sweet 16 or better for sure.
Well, and last year we got, I don't know if you want to say it was a great draw, but we got a nice draw, and how that comes out. And that's the one thing that you don't really know until that, you play the whole 6.5 months, and then bam, on that Sunday, they could put you in a bracket that really, really challenged you to get to the Sweet 16 or to get to the Elite 8. And depending on what teams are there, is how they've been playing, the depth of those teams, the injury factors. I mean, there's so many things, but that's the beauty of the tournament, is not a 7-game. I mean, you look at the finals this year, and if it was a 1-game tournament, we'd have a different champion.
Right.
In the NBA, it's a 7-game tournament, so that's how it plays out. And so it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm with you, Tej. I believe if it's as good as our team going into the season has been since I've been alive. Anyways,
it's exciting. It's a fun time to be a fan.
Yeah, it is. Really is.
That was awesome. Well, thank you, Coach, for being here, taking so much time. with TJ and I. That was a lot of fun, man. Some super cool perspective, like hearing you talk about like the fans and their optimism. Just, you know, like it's different coming from you, right? Like you saw it up close and personal for 20 plus years. So thank you for being here. Thanks for giving us the time. And yeah,
it wasn't what we just saw it, we felt it. And
yeah.
That's one thing about BYU is that you feel it, you know, and these guys are feeling it now, I know. And sometime if you want to talk about what happened when we were there, the three of us, that would be a good half-hour conversation too, because I've got some stories about these two guys that will make everybody they'll keep listening, that's for sure.
Well, if you're committing to another half hour, we're going to take it in the next couple months. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, let's make that happen.
It's frozen. All right. Well, there's Coach Rose. I might just kick him off. I think his computer. Oh, you there? Well, Coach, thanks for being here. I mean, sounds like you're already in for. We'll put you down for like 12 weeks from now. We got you for another 30 minutes. So, thanks for being here, and make sure you say hi to Cheryl for us. He might not have heard any of that.
He can watch it back.
I'll just shoot him a text. But that was big time. I just, yeah. Coach can hear us. I think there's just
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear us.
Yeah.
I was saying thanks for being here. We're gonna get you back on here in the next 12 weeks as you just committed to, and thank you for being here, and make sure you say hi to Cheryl for us.
Hey, I will do.
Thanks, Coach. You're the man.
I just think my two takeaways are, I'm just going to jump in here. One, I really liked how he's like, and we've talked about this on the show before, like you'd rather have, you know, your fans be overly optimistic, right? Like it's cool. Yes, there's pressure. And we talked about this today or yesterday. Like, yes, there's pressure, but there's not pressure and expectations where people are rolling their eyes going like, all right, let's see where we fail. You know, like, I kind of feel like that's how the Kentucky vibe was when Calipari was there towards the end. Like, all right, yeah, we got a big recruiting class. Let's see how we blow it up. You know, like big expectations, bunch of money, bunch of resources, bunch of big names all being brought together, and people are waiting for them to fail.
Right.
You know, whereas like our fans are, you know, maybe even blindly optimistic. Like you'd rather have that, like they turn the page quickly, which I thought, you know, was a really, really cool perspective. And then he jumped in there at the end and said, it's not like I saw this, I felt it, right? Like it's more than just seeing it. And then the other thing that I hadn't even thought about, right? Like, again, just, you know, Coach Rose's experience in that world and perspective was cool to hear. He's going, there's no better coach. Like, obviously KY is a great choice. And in retrospect, we know that even when we hired him, everyone was excited and we knew that, but also what he just said, his ability to be able to go separate the finances from the coaching is very unique. Like that learning curve is not an issue. And that was, again, proven in retrospect. It's very obvious to see. There were tough decisions, you know, guys that finished out the game and rotations that were switched up when things weren't going the way we wanted. It didn't matter how much guys were getting paid. And he was able to separate that noise from, you know, performance on the court. And I hadn't thought about that. So I thought those were two really, really cool insights.
And that coming from KY, like you only can have that through experience.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, like you can't just like show up and be like, yeah, like I'm going to figure out how to deal with 1.5 over here and 800,000 here and 200,000 here. And, you know, like he's experienced that at the highest level, which is so valuable for us.
Yeah, I got those. Now the numbers you just laid out were guys' game checks, right? Like that's who he's doing. Honestly, though, like
I know it's insane.
Guys,
it's so cool. Like Coach, it's like you know, his perspective on everything he's seen over the last 25 years at BYU is just, it's so cool, and it's different from like he has a one-of-one perspective of BYU, you know, and what he's seen and where we're at and how far we've come. And it's just, it's cool to see that. And I'm sure it's like, I'm sure he has like both sides where he's like, man, I miss being out there, but he's also like, man, this is such a crazy time. Like, I just get to be a fan and enjoy it, and like go to travel to New York and Boston and go watch these games and just enjoy it. Cause yeah, when he's like, you feel this great stuff, but you also feel that pressure, you know, that weighs heavy on a coach. And and he did a great job in his coaching career, and he's one of the greatest to do it.
I still think if he could answer that question, which I don't, he can't fully say one way or the other. Obviously, he's got some PR training, but I think he'd love a shot at it, right? Like he alluded to a couple times, like, there are teams that everyone knows has been paying forever, and now those coaches like don't have that same swag going into these, NIL,
right?
Equal chance, equal opportunity financially, this era. I think he'd love to see what he could do, because like he has great relationships with boosters to this day.
Totally.
Financially, BYU, it's not like we just found a bunch of boosters with money. It's just we're super compliant. I heard stories about Coach Rose, and maybe we throw this in next episode, which I want to do, right? Like I want to talk about it.
I'm curious to hear what stories he's got about me. I'm like, crap.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some bad ones in me, but I heard stories of guys, that wanted to come or wanted to stay, or whatever the circumstances were, and there was money that could have been made, and he always said no. And like you hear about stuff like that, and I'm like, dang, like he would have cleaned up if he had money,
Yeah, because I mean, you and I for the past year have been meeting with a lot of boosters at BYU, and like he has great relationships.
Yeah.
Coach Rose nailed that and made them feel special in so many ways, and he really did a great job with that. And yeah, he would have done very well. Would have found all types of ways to dominate this.
Yeah. Well, that was awesome. Good work, TJ. Thanks guys for tuning in. We'll be here next week with Brian Santiago, same time, same place. TJ will be in his car. I'll be in my basement. So thanks for being here, and we got some fun guests. Again, Washed Up, Eric, Mika, and TJ Haws. We'll see you next week.